Morning, guys. So, how we doing? You guys are having a good morning. I don't know what my hair's doing this morning. It's a little out of control. But I hope you guys are having a good morning. And it is Monday. It's Make a Difference Monday. So I hope today that you make a difference. And we are going to be in Psalm 44 today. And we're going to pick up in the middle of the psalm. And so, over the weekend, hopefully you're reading through the reading plan. If you don't know where the reading plan is, you can go to our Vineyard website, and our reading plan is on there. And there's an Old Testament reading, a New Testament reading, and obviously the Psalm reading. And we've been working through the Psalms as we've been moving through the year. And it's April today as well. It's April 3rd. So we're going to pick up in the middle of the Psalm. And let me read the reading, and then I'll kind of try to, if I can, explain where we're at in the psalm. And so it says this. It says, "All this came upon us, though we had not forgotten you. We had not been false to your covenant. Our hearts had not turned back. Our feet had not strayed from your path. But you crushed us and made us a haunt for jackals. You covered us over with the deep darkness. If we had forgotten the name of our God or spread out our hands to a foreign God, would not God have discovered it, since he knows the secrets of our hearts? Yet for your sake we face death all day long. We are considered as sheep to be slaughtered. Awake, Lord. Why do you sleep? Rouse yourself. Do not reject us forever. Why do you hide your face and forget our misery and oppression? We are brought down to the dust. Our bodies cling to the ground. Rise up and help us. Rescue us because of your unfailing love." And so, what's going on in this passage? The first part of this psalm, since we pick up in verse 17, it's kind of a familiar arc that often the psalmist will take us through. And that arc being this, is that he begins by saying, our ancestors tell us of a day when God was right with his people, and that he would bring his signs and wonders and would protect them in all these kinds of ways. He then transitions to, and we've been faithful to the covenant. We've been faithful to our God. We haven't strayed from the path. And then in this part of the passage here, but he kind of lands the plane with, but where is he now? You know, we've heard all of these great deeds. We've been faithful to you, God, but it's as if you're asleep right now. It's like, where are you at? Why are you not protecting us now? And the psalmist is essentially asking the Lord, like, where are you at? Are you asleep somewhere? Even in verse 23, he says, "Awake, Lord, why do you sleep? Rouse yourself. Do not reject us forever." And it just had me thinking. It had me thinking about faith this morning, and how we need faith to continue to move forward, especially in those times, those places where it doesn't feel like God is around. And I wish I would have thought about this or looked it up or noticed it earlier. But Paul quotes this psalm that we are like, we are crushed. Where is it at? Anyway, he says we are crushed in spirit, and we face death all day long. And Paul, even in the hardships that he faced, he relied on this passage to get him through. But it had me thinking of two things about faith. Let me just real quickly go through those thoughts. One, there's a faith that we can have. Oftentimes we think of faith as something so that we can escape. And it had me thinking about when the disciples and Jesus were in the boat and Jesus was asleep. And they wake him up. And they even say to him, like, don't you care if we drowned? And Jesus wakes up and he calms the storm. And oftentimes faith is something that we think that faith is what we need to escape the problems of our life. And yet Jesus in that moment says to them, "Do you guys still have no faith?" And so, oftentimes, what can happen is when it feels like God is silent, we perhaps can become introspective in the senses, do we have enough faith, or what's going on, and why can't we escape this hardship? And so there's sometimes a faith to try to escape, but I would say that there's perhaps a better kind of a faith, and that's a faith to endure. Been studying Hebrews 11, and Hebrews 11 is about the people of faith. And the first part of the chapter is about all these the promises of God and the faith that it took for the people to define the promises of God. But then it also talks about those throughout the history of Israel who never received the promise, at least not in life, and that their promise is actually, their reward is a greater promise because they had a faith to endure the hardships of life. And I was just thinking that sometimes faith isn't just simply like a bridge over, what is that saying? A bridge over troubled waters. But sometimes faith is just simply a pathway through those troubles. And so I don't know if that makes any sense. I feel like I'm ranting this morning. My hair looks really weird. But that's just kind of what just jumped out at me this morning, is that sometimes it doesn't feel like God's present, and yet we have to have a faith that will endure, that to continue to move through, even though it doesn't feel like He's around. And so yeah, that's kind of what caught my attention. So I don't know what the invitation or the challenge is. I think it's both. It's an invitation to just continue to trust God, and it's a challenge to keep moving forward. And I find that great people of faith, they do that. That when everything else speaks to a reason why they should doubt, they just continue to keep going. And I think it's a gift that God gives us, and it's something that we all have access to. We just have to receive it. So hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to cut this out because I feel like I'm just ranting. And it's Monday, so make a difference today. Be a blessing to someone today, and we will catch you guys tomorrow morning. Love you all. Bye.